Hello, and thank you for joining TRG's first Let's Talk About series with Datalogic and TRG. And we're here to talk about warehouse efficiency. My name's Amber Kegley, and I'll be facilitating the conversation today with two awesome individuals here that I'll get to introduce in a second. But before we get started, I do want to give some housekeeping, I guess rules if you want to call it that. But first and foremost, thank you guys for taking the time, and a small token of our appreciation to you is that we have a $15 Chipotle gift card that we'll give everyone who attends. You'll receive it in your email within 1 to 2 business days after the session. The second one is everyone will be muted out. So if you do have questions throughout this presentation and discussion, please just put them in the Q&A box below, and we'll be sure to get to them. If we do run out of time, just note we will reach out to you on an individual basis and make sure we get those questions answered. So let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be covering a variety of topics. The first one is warehouse challenges. With the last 12 months in this world and the pandemic going on, there's been a lot of changes and a lot of challenges our customers bring to our attention. So it's really important to talk through what those challenges are, the technologies we're implementing, key focus areas, total cost of ownership. There's hard costs, soft costs. What are our customers and what are our partners seeing, and the important factors to take into consideration with those costs. And mobile security. We're seeing security as a top topic that a lot of our customers are coming to us about. And lucky for us, Datalogic has a great mobility suite that they're able to talk about and highlight some of those important factors and what you should be watching and taking note of as a customer. So with me today, let's make those introductions. Mike, I'll start with you if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Mike McGurman. I've been in technology sales 33 years. I know that's hard to believe, but with 25 years in mobility. And, my role at TRG is I'm a co-vice president of sales, manage a large sales team. I've been walking distribution centers for a very long time from the standpoint of helping people find opportunities for improvement. And TRG is a company that provides mobile managed services. So we help people keep their devices running. We make sure they have the equipment that they need, where they need it, when they need it, through a bunch of different things we do. And so that's really what TRG is about. So, and I'm going to transition over to Alfredo to introduce himself.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Amber, and everyone here. My name is Alfredo Machado. I am the channel account manager at Datalogic. I've been with the company almost 3 years now, managing the channel side. So being TRG, a key partner of Datalogic. Datalogic is a global technology leader in the automatic data capture factory automation markets, specialized in designing and production of barcode readers, mobile computers, sensors for detection, measurement, and safety, RFID, vision, laser marking systems, etc. So Datalogic is a company that's been around for more than 40 years. It's an Italian-based company with a worldwide presence, and we help increase the efficiency and quality of process in retail, manufacturing, transportation, logistics, and healthcare industries. Today's focus is going to be obviously more on the warehousing side, so happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Alfredo. So now let's dive in. So as I mentioned, all those challenges, companies are being forced to be more nimble and make some changes in regards to their structures, their infrastructure in the warehouse space, and optimizing those warehouse efficiencies is, like I said, top of mind. So what are some of those challenges, Mike, that you're seeing customers bring up or talk through, and what challenges is TRG helping to solve?
Sure. So to your point, there are no people running distribution centers getting to ship less with more people. It's the opposite, right? Everybody's trying to tighten budgets. The other thing, there's been a big shift this year with COVID to online business increasing greatly, which takes you from a situation where you might be shipping pallets to stores, and instead now you're shipping packages to individuals, right? So big shift there. Some of the other challenges people are facing, OS migration, you mentioned that, basically, going from Windows Mobile, Windows CE platforms that are now obsoleted and not able to get supported anymore, or at least get upgrades, moving to Android, which is different. And that brings into play things like potentially touchscreens. Do you go keyless, or do you still use a keyboard? Do you keep your application the same, or do you migrate it to something that's more modern? Modern isn't always better, right? Sometimes the way you do it now is about the most efficient way to do it. You just need to migrate the OS. But in some cases, you might want to change the whole interface. The other challenge people have is, in terms of reducing downtime. Making sure you have the right equipment where you need it, when you need it. So if I keep my spares in my warehouse, a lot of times what happens is I've walked in many distribution centers where they have the spares piled up in the drawer, and the broken units are piled up in the drawer, and there are no more spares. So now what are they going to do if another one breaks? And then they ship them back in bulk to get fixed, which is always a challenge for the people that fix them, right? But so you got to make sure you have the types of systems in place should you have somebody managing your spares pool for you, so that your actual workers aren't the guys that are responsible for that. They put in a return authorization, a spare shipped out overnight, and somebody helps you manage getting that broken piece of equipment back by sending you a report telling you what warehouses are keeping the broken equipment, not shipping it back. So things like that. Bottom line is people are looking at things like robots. So that's a technology that's starting to come into play. And there's some limitations there with robots. Some of the robots, you really need a person to scan and put the item on the robot, and then the robot goes to the next pick location, right? Other cases, there's robots that are actually reaching out and grabbing packages, scanning them, and then putting them in the right bin, right? So that's starting to be a thing out there that's definitely happening. We're not really going to dive deep into that today, but we are seeing things like inline scanners. How do I become more efficient? How can I get more packages through my facility? Maybe by scanning with an inline scanner on a conveyor. Voice technology is something that's become big, and I think it's going to continue to grow. I think the way people do voice might change a little bit. But I think voice technology in combination with scanning in a lot of cases is making people more efficient. There's back of the hand scanning, where I'm wearing a device on my hand potentially with a scanner on my finger, and I go around, and what does that do? It frees up my hands. So if I have a typical handheld, I do a scan. I now want to do something with that device before I pick the item. So usually I put it down. And sometimes when I put it down, I might actually look away from the item I was supposed to pick and pick the wrong item. And so with back of the hand, I can focus, I see the thing, I scan it, and I grab it, right? So, and then we're seeing some uptick in RFID usage, for example, for tracking totes and things like that. So I would say there's some of the biggest things we're seeing. Bottom line is, people, again, are trying to become more efficient because budgets are tight, and they got to get more out of the same facility, same square footage, with the same amount of people, or sometimes less. So.
Awesome. And that actually segues great into the next topic here. And Alfredo, this one's really going to be directed towards you, but implementing new technologies and key focus areas. Can you walk us through a manufacturing or warehouse facility and really the different technologies there, and what, areas in which not just Datalogic, but, any partner in the different areas that we can have different technologies, focus?
Yeah, sure. And I think to Mike's point, right, the current reality in the warehousing space for customers is, keeping a tight budget with, less people in their operations. So this is where Datalogic plays a key role in technology with the different applications. So Mike mentioned having a hands-free solution where maybe the operator is using a wearable instead of having a device on their hands. So where to focus in the warehouse, where to implement technology. I think if you see in the image, you have different stages. So maybe each customer is a little bit different, but we play a good role in different type of applications, from receiving merchandise in the warehouse or in the distribution center, to put away warehouse storage. And then when the customer places the orders and we're seeing a customer that it's always more you know, like asking for a faster delivery of their items. So they need to put in place technology that allows um, fulfilling the orders faster and then shipping them out the door through different carriers. So Datalogic here has technologies with mobile computers, handheld industrial scanners, wearables in the case for applications like receiving merchandise, putting away merchandise in the shelves, inventory picking for preparing the orders, packing, sorting those products, and then shipping out of the door. Like Mike was mentioning, nowadays customers need to invest in ways to automate these processes as much as possible, which is going to put them in the position to decrease cost in the operation and improve their accuracy and efficiency. With inliner scanners, for example, we have in Datalogic a pretty complete portfolio and solution for stationary industrial scanners that you can integrate in a conveyor belt, for example. So you can put them on top of the conveyor belt in tunnels where conveyor is going at a certain speed and you have the boxes passing by at a high speed. You can put them on top, on the sides, and then those imager scanners is, they're manufactured with the purpose of scanning the barcodes independently on where the barcode is positioned in the box. So in that sense, either you're automating a process completely or you're speeding up the process compared to how you were doing it before on a more manual perspective. So we have, for example, if you're putting away merchandise on the shelf, we have vehicle computers as well for the forklift. So you can integrate with a industrial handheld scanners. So Mike was mentioning the fact that the user sometimes needs to hold the device in a uncomfortable way, position, and then if they're doing a specific task, they may get a little bit distracted, which is prone to errors. And obviously, in the warehouse, in that operation, every mistake costs money. So that's where technology comes to solve those type of problems. So if you have a vehicle computer in the forklift, you don't have to go back to a computer. You don't have to use a manual process by holding a paper in your hands. You're gonna be focused entirely on picking the right product, the right time, and making sure that you're avoiding any type of mistakes. And then once the product shipped out of the door, then and going to the courier facilities or straight to the customers, we also have mobile computers for outside the four walls as well. So in here we have all different types of hardware other than mobile computers or handhelds, right? So a big focus on stationary industrial scanners, precision contrast sensors, smart cameras with high resolutions that can truly focus on decreasing the percentage of mistakes and increasing accuracy to 99%.
Thanks, Alfredo. Can you also talk to us about software applications in the warehouse and how those play a role into the technologies or the different technologies you just mentioned?
Yeah, that's a great question, Amber. And that's where TRG as a partner plays a great role as well with Datalogic. We partner with different ISV that develops software for warehouse applications, either within the four walls or actually outside the four walls as well for last mile delivery or routed applications. And we make sure we test our devices with all these different software and applications, and that they are obviously compatible to work without any type of issues. So if there's any customers out there that use any type of software application, we can definitely send a demo gear and test those units. Also on our automation product line, so on the stationary industrial scanners, those type of devices, we develop some softwares tools as well that are out there available for the customer that can help configure the scanner to work depending on the need of the customers. So if you have a stationary industrial scanner in a conveyor belt, you can configure that device to have a read, no read, or if you're using the device to make sure that a barcode has the correct resolution and it can be scanned correctly, we develop software to make sure that it's configurable to the need of the client. So we do have our own software for many of the product lines and different tools that we're going to talk about later in the presentation, but also we partner with the key ISVs for warehousing applications.
Awesome, Alfredo. Thanks for that important point around software. And that brings us into our next topic of total cost of ownership, or TCO. So when it comes to TCO, there's obviously soft costs, hard costs. And if you can see to the left of your screen here, it does point out the differences, right? So when it comes to total cost of ownership, we're typically seeing about 25% of those costs fall into the soft cost category, which could be your software cost and some other things that partners may or may not be aware of. And obviously 75% comes into the hard costs around hardware, right? Accessories, batteries. But Alfredo, can you talk to us just in general around total cost of ownership when it comes to Datalogic, your devices? And then Mike, I'd love for you to join in too to the conversation and add some knowledge around some of the things like service maintenance contracts and other components that, again, our partners may or may not be aware of.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, TCO is a key talking point as well, because obviously it has an impact on the investment, and we want to make sure that we have the lowest cost of ownership as possible. So number one, on the device life cycle, that's one of the key benefits as well of migrating from Windows to Android in future-proofing the device. And Datalogic offers different services and some tools as well to help maximize the device life cycle. So we're going to talk about Datalogic Shield in a second, but we have services where we offer upgrades in the operating system, constant updates on the firmware, constant updates on the security patches, and that's going to obviously help maximize the life cycle of the device as much as possible on the software side. Then on the hardware side, our devices are very rugged, so we make sure that they can sustain, let's say, falls from 6 feet, 6 foot on concrete. And then also we have different features that truly add value to the investment, such as wireless charging technology, which is a key Datalogic differentiator. As many of you know, I'm pretty sure customers in the warehouse they have experienced this. Contacts is the number 2 reason of failure when charging devices. So Datalogic put in place the wireless charging technology on its enterprise devices. And what this brings is a huge benefit in eliminating any type of issues when charging the device on the cradle. So we eliminate the need to do any type of maintenance. And then if the user mispositions the device on the cradle and has problems charging, now with this technology, we're not going to see that. So that's going to definitely improve the total cost of ownership. Also, by having this technology, we have a software tool where the customer can select from different options on the battery profile. So if they forgot to charge the device the day before, and then they have like an 8-hour shift, they can select a profile where they can charge to speed in 12, 15 minutes for 3 hours of use. Then they have different profiles, so making sure they are charging the battery to the maximum capacity and protecting the benefit of the battery, so ensuring that we have the longest battery life possible. So those are some of the benefits we see in terms of going with a Datalogic device, both on the hardware perspective and then on the software side as well.
Yeah, and from my perspective, Amber, I think one of the things, by the way, you mentioned you build rugged devices. Let me throw in a comment about that. So I had a customer who was having a lot of failure with their past devices. They did go with the Scorpio 4s, and they're very happy with it. The guy calls them a tank. So there you go. and the five's even better. But touching on some of the other things that are real important, I think that one thing people lose perspective on is that their wireless is going to change because they change the configuration of their building. They add more users, maybe they have more things on the wireless network. There's a lot of factors that come into play, and what they start seeing is degrading performance, bad performance on the wireless. So either with connectivity issues potentially, or frankly, just slowness. And I was just in a warehouse the other day where they were experiencing an 8-second response time, which was clearly a wireless problem, right? So what do you got to do? What most people think you have to do is throw up more wireless access points. And that's usually not the answer. What is the answer is to do a resurvey and make sure you pick a company that's surveyed a lot of distribution centers and understands that, and understands that there's going to be metal around and boxes and potentially paper and different things that are going to have different effects on the radio waves, right? So getting a survey done can improve, productivity by not having people standing around waiting for a device to respond, and it can just make things a lot more efficient. The other thing related to service contracts and making sure you have the right type of service contract. Not everyone needs a 3-day turnaround time. Maybe what they'd rather have is a spare in the air, have that out to them the next day, and then they can deal with a contract that's longer, maybe 10-day turnaround. So it just depends on what your needs are. But there's plenty of options out there for different types of contracts and different turnaround times. And the spare in the air for a lot of our customers seems to be working real well for them. The other thing is asset management, knowing where your devices are. And there's locker systems out there where you can actually store the devices in, do check in, check out of those assets. So if I have a Scorpio 5 that I just bought, I want to make sure it's being taken care of. I don't want people, hiding the device on me. I want to know who has the device. Those kind of systems can help with that. So there's a lot of things as it relates to that. In terms of things like failure rates, really, one of the things we do with our service hub system at TRG is we're able to give you data on how many failures you're having. And if you've got a rugged device and you're experiencing 60% failure rates, something's wrong. And back to that asset management system where I have a check-in, check-out locker, I can start tracking back who's breaking those devices, right? So that we can get that under control. There's been multiple situations in my career where somebody was having higher failure rates in the same company, different distribution center. One's in Alabama, one's in New Jersey, and the New Jersey one was experiencing higher failure rates. When we investigated why that was, they were making the people sign the devices out in Alabama. They weren't in New Jersey, and the people in New Jersey just didn't care. They got a device and they went out and they beat it up, and nobody was really tracking it. So that's definitely something that can actually help with failure rates. But I think that pretty much covers it. In terms of device life cycle, I think it's important to be looking at devices that do have the latest processors and are upgradable, because you want to get the longest life cycle you can get. And when you look at total cost of ownership, there's one more factor. I think when you look at that, there are mobility as a service, hardware as a service programs that you can actually implement that basically give you a fixed monthly fee for everything, for the, throw the software in there if you want, your maintenance program, spare in the air program, your device management software, whatever it is, and the hardware all rolled into a single payment. It just makes it easier to control your costs. And it also gives you the option to upgrade in 3 to 5 years if that's what you want to do. So.
Awesome. It looks like we had one question come in, Mike, real quick before we jump to the next slide. Can you touch on maintenance and service contracts and what options might be out there for companies that are, they either can't afford to upgrade all their devices at once, or maybe they're doing a deployment or rollout and they're going to have to extend that life, but their warranty with the manufacturer has ended?
Sure. So at TRG, we can help those companies by taking the current devices and putting them under short-term contracts so that we have them covered in case they do break, and then start the rollout of the new devices with deployment services, kit configure, load the software on there that they need, get those new devices out to the sites. Usually what people do is they take one site at a time and do the rollout, right? That's the normal approach to it. Sometimes people do a big bang where they're going to go live with a bunch of distribution centers all at once after some testing, right? But at any rate, yeah, we can help those companies migrate to the new technology easily by keeping the current devices fixed and rolling out the new devices under a manufacturer warranty, and also provide things like advanced spares pools so that they can have those devices next day if they want them. If that's not important to them, they don't need that then. But
awesome. So now let's jump to mobile security. We see a lot of manufacturers package different software applications or technologies into their devices. Alfredo, can you briefly touch on Datalogic's mobility suite and how that ties into not just security, but the overall technology of the device?
Yeah, sure. And I think Datalogic Mobility Suite is a great resource for our customers. We add value to the hardware by making sure we put in place the different tools they need to make the best out of their investment, right? So with the Mobility Suite, we have different tools such as Scan to Deploy Studio. So Scan to Deploy is a great tool where you can configure the device, what applications you want to show in the device, what applications you want to uninstall, setting up the Wi-Fi connection, and then after doing all the configuration that's going to be tailor-made for your need, you can just scan a QR code and deploy for the rest of the devices. Then we have, Datalogic Android SDK, so we make sure that our SDKs are out there to develop any type of application on Android to work with our different product lines. And we have Datalogic Shield, which is a key component of the mobility suite. Datalogic Shield is a service that it's a must-have with our Android devices because it's going to make sure that we are future-proofing your device for the next 5 years. So we know that Google is constantly updating their security patches. They're coming up with a new operating system on a constant basis. And as Mike mentioned before, our devices have the latest platform out there that's going to enable with this service that the customer is upgrading in operating system, their applications, etc. In the future. So that service can extend from 3 to 5 years, which means a lower TCO to the point of the previous slide. And that's part of the big part of the mobility suite. So in as an overview, there are different tools that we keep developing, we keep upgrading to make sure that we're offering the necessary tools for the customers to use in the warehouse and make sure they're truly taking and making the best out of the product they're buying. And as a big part of this is the data security, right? So part of the concern of the lack of support that now Windows is going to have. So no longer there's not going to be any type of support for Windows operating system, which is a big obvious talking point when migrating to Android. Android has worked really well in the past years to make sure they have the most modern and secure platform out there. And part of that, it's constantly updating the security patch in their operating system. So Datalogic obviously wants to be a part of this and enable the customer with a Datalogic Shield service and make sure they're constantly doing those upgrades, and we're announcing on a quarterly basis any new update on the firmware, on the security patch, etc., which is obviously going to make sure that there's no risk in having a compromised device.
And Mike, when it comes to the MDM piece, can you talk a little bit about TRG, what we're seeing from an MDM standpoint, how that's important when it comes to security and what the capabilities are around mobile devices in the warehouse?
When it comes to these mobile devices, they do have more power, right? When you have a Snapdragon processor that can download, run video, do all kinds of things. What you want to do is you want to make sure it's locked down. You don't want people surfing the web, checking on their mobile device, work mobile device to check the scores last night. You don't want them on their betting apps. You don't want them doing any of that stuff, right? So you got to keep them focused on their job. So part of what we do within our MDM practice is we create a golden image that will lock people out of a variety of other things that you could potentially do on those devices and keep them focused on their role, right? So that's an important part. The other thing we could do is provide a 7x24 help desk. So if anything goes wrong, you can call in and we can take over that device literally remotely, look at the device, see what's going on, potentially reset it, make some suggestions, or maybe it's actually in need of repair. Maybe there is nothing that can be done, but we can check the radio settings, all those kind of things. Alfredo mentioned batteries earlier. One of the things that is a killer of productivity in the world of distribution is somebody going out with a device that only has 2 or 3 hour battery life. They go out, they do their work. I need a battery. Now they walk. And if you're in a 1 million square foot facility, that's a long walk, right? Back to get another battery. And no matter how logically you have battery chargers laid out, it's still a challenge, right? Now I've lost 20 minutes of productivity while that person goes and gets a battery. We can pull from the MDM to make sure that people are going out with fully charged batteries and making sure that they're doing the right thing. So we can help you secure things, keep people off apps you don't want them on, keep them focused on their work, and provide you help desk, along with making sure that they're being the most productive they can.
Awesome. And I do want to tease, talking about MDM, we have our next actual presentation for our Taco Bout, series is with one of our other MDM partners, Sodi. So I think it's a great plug here where actually we can drop in the chat function. We'll be able to get you all the details so you can go ahead and pre-register if that's something you're interested in. But back to the conversation real quick, I did have a couple more questions that came in, excuse me. So Mike, I'll start with you, and Alfredo, feel free to jump in with this. So the first question that came up, and sorry, it's hard for me to read, so I'm like an old lady over here, but what technologies, Mike, are you starting to see customers implement into their warehouse to become more efficient?
Yeah, I think, one thing too, by the way, we have not talked about printers at all. While that might seem like a minor topic here, it's really not. Having good printers that, print labels quickly, number one, but also print good quality labels. Because if you start to get, you get all new mobile computers and you have the best scanners, yeah, they're going to read better. They're going to perform better. They're going to do a lot of things better. But at the same time, you want good quality barcodes so you get the best, quickest read rates you can get. So maintaining those printers, looking at new printers, I think is a critical factor that we didn't really talk about. I think, back to the technologies we're seeing people implement, we're starting to see some RFID come into play. As much in asset management as anywhere, making sure that my preventative maintenance tasks are getting done on my conveyor systems, getting done on key equipment that is in my facility, right? So we're starting to see some RFID usage for things like that, as well as tote tracking, as I mentioned earlier. Definitely starting to see people look at inline scanners more, and that's been a technology that's been out there for a long time, but it's gotten so good. I was in a demo with the Datalogic sales rep where literally the barcode was across the room. The fixed station scanner was sitting here and it was reading that barcode, and I was just amazed at how far it could read that small barcode. So that technology has improved a lot. That's going to make you more efficient when the more conveyors, the more products being moved in an automated fashion. Obviously, that's going to make you more efficient. And things like robots, we're starting to see them. While I wouldn't say TRG at this point is huge in the robot space, nor is Datalogics. There's definitely a robot factor out there, and we're seeing more and more of those kind of automated type things to keep people efficient. So.
Yeah, and I think, to Mike's point, the inliner scanners, it's something that it's truly providing more efficiency to the operation. So many times, clients are using mobile devices to be more productive on the, picking applications, to fulfill orders, etc. But they haven't truly analyzed how can they automate process with the conveyor belts, and that's where Datalogic truly has a very complete solution. Like Mike was saying, our newest imagers are truly amazing with their capabilities and how they can scan at high speeds, and that's it's gonna improve accuracy to almost 99%, which is something that's truly good for the bottom line of the business, right? So I think nowadays we're focusing a lot on the mobile computers and how we can be more efficient on that end, but having the conversation on how can I automate some processes in my warehouse or my distribution center, it's going to bring some very good benefits as well.
Great. Well, it looks like we're up against time. I will give it another minute here to see if there's any other questions that came in. But one thing that I wanted to ask each of you, just in your expert opinion, is what is one thing customers could be doing different or should be doing different, or maybe even thinking differently, right? What is that one thing that customers should be aware of if they're looking to optimize their warehouse efficiencies?
I'll go first. I would just say I don't know that there's one thing, but when you look at, I think having doing an operational tour and just making sure you are doing things in the most efficient manner is a good idea. And one of the things that a company like TRG and Datalogic both bring to the table is operational expertise. I've walked 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 warehouses. I don't even know how many at this point. And you start to learn a lot about what people could be doing. But I always think of the area of picking when we talk about operational efficiency, because generally speaking, you're usually 50+% of the labor, maybe even more, is in the picking area, right? So the more efficient I can make them, and two things I think about is mezzanines cause havoc for wireless. Again, keeping your wireless up to snuff, making sure it's performing properly, making sure you got the right coverage, and looking at things like back of the hand and voice technologies to free up the hands of the operators. So they're the things I think about. I think you asked me for one thing. I gave you
What did I say?
I'm sorry. My
It's all right.
It's hard to choose.
No, it's good.
Yeah, it's hard to choose. And I think the key point there, it's truly sit down and analyze what's going on in my warehouse. So doing the rounds, seeing how I am operating nowadays and how can I improve in those processes. So it's all depending as well on, the different customers and depending on the space they use in the warehouse, etc. But I think it's a matter of how efficient can I get by investing the right technology. So if I'm in the picking area, then maybe I can implement a fixed scanner, which is going to give me having my hands free for an application, and that's going to enable the operator to decrease any type of errors, focusing truly on the task they need to do, being more efficient, as we were mentioning, on the conveyor. So it's I think we're seeing a lot of different areas that now customers are looking into with the increase in demand, the high volume of orders of different small items. How do I fulfill those orders, etc. And so I think there's a ton of technology where Datalogic and TRG can work with the customers to have them realize where they can be more productive and efficient.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we are up against time, so I do apologize here. And if there is any other questions, it looks like there might be one or two more that came in. We will reach out to you directly after this webinar, and we'll get your questions answered. So thank you so much for taking the time. And for all of you who joined, your Chipotle gift cards will be sent via your email within the next 1 to 2 business days. It says 24 hours, but we'll get those out to you as soon as possible. So thank you again. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.